Good morning, it's Wednesday the 4th of November and today we're looking at Acts 9 and it's quite a popular one, it's quite a famous one. We're talking about Saul's conversion today, from Saul to Paul, but we're only looking at verses 1 to 9 today, so if we could look at that together. Meanwhile, Saul was still breathing out murderous threats against the Lord's disciples. He went to the high priest and asked him for letters to the synagogues in Damascus, so that if he found there any who belonged to the way, whether men or women, he may take them as prisoners to Jerusalem. As he neared Damascus on his journey, suddenly a light from heaven flashed around him. He fell to the ground and heard a voice say to him, "Saul, Saul, why do you persecute me?" "Who are you, Lord?" Saul asked. "I am Jesus, whom you are persecuting," he replied. "Now get up and go into the city, and you will be told what you must do." The men travelling with Saul stood there speechless. They heard the sound, but did not see anyone. Saul got up from the ground, but when he opened his eyes, he could see nothing. So they led him by the hand into Damascus, and for 3 days he was blind and did not eat or drink anything. And there's a few things that jump out of this passage that we probably all read many times. And the first thing is how Saul is described as he's persecuting the Jews. He's described as breathing out murderous threats against the Lord's disciples. I'm a visual person, and to me this image of Saul breathing out these murderous threats is like a dragon breathing fire. It's a really strong and violent description of how he was persecuting the disciples. Another thing that I really liked is the description of the disciples as followers of the way, or belong to the way. And yes, as Christians, we are called Christians, but I love that description of followers of the way, because that's what we're called to do. We're called to follow the way of Jesus, Jesus' way of doing things. Jesus himself said, "I am the way, the truth and the life," and that's a really good way of describing what we are called to do. And another thing was the fact that when Saul was blinded by the light, he called out, "Lord, who are you?" or "Who are you, Lord?" And he knew straight away who it was. I just thought that was really interesting. And then Jesus spoke to him. But something else that I really wanted to point out was the fact that he didn't just go from having this blinding experience, and then he got back on his horse, and then he goes and then he changes into Paul straight away and goes and carries on and being obedient to what God's called him to do. There's a process that he goes through. So he gets blinded, he needs to be led back into the city by his companions. He was blind, he didn't drink or eat for 3 days, so there was something going on for those 3 days, whether physically, well, definitely physically, not to eat or drink for 3 days is a big deal, but spiritually, mentally, emotionally, there's a lot that's going on in that process before he is then able to be obedient to what God has in store for him, which, as we know, is a massive ministry in itself. And it reminded me of a verse that I read this morning. I'm still reading through Psalm 119, and this morning I read Psalm 119, and it was verse 125, and the psalmist says, "I am your servant, give me discernment that I may understand your statutes." And Spurgeon gives these commentaries on this verse. It's really helpful. And he says, "We may expect a master to teach his own servant the meaning of his own orders. It's remarkable that the psalmist does not pray for understanding through acquiring knowledge, but begs of the Lord first that he may have the gracious gift of understanding, and then may obtain the desired instruction." And it's that relationship that we have with God, but it's also that humble relationship that we have with God, of recognizing that we are God's servants, he is the master, and it comes to a point that we can't just go and rely on knowledge itself. We have to have that understanding, that discernment first, and there's a process that we need to go through to have that strength to be able to be sustained in obedience in whatever God's calling us to do. So like Saul had this blinding moment, he then went through this experience, gained some sort of discerning understanding in that process, I'm sure, and then had the strength to be obedient and to go and do what God asked him to do as a ministry. And I think that that's the same for us. we need that knowledge. We need to be reading the Bible and learning more and more about God. But it's also the discernment, the experience, the understanding that comes from this relationship of prayer that we need to keep asking for from God, to have that two-way experience with God, the understanding and the discernment that helps us understand the knowledge and then helps us to use that knowledge in obedience in whatever God's calling us to do. So yeah, it was really an encouragement to keep pressing in, to learning more things, but also to make sure that we're asking God for understanding and discernment to help us with this in whatever area of life God's calling us to make a difference and to do different things, whether it's big or small. It all matters. Have a lovely day. Take care. Bye.